Hello and good morning or good afternoon or good evening, and welcome to your distance learning education and reading and writing skills. So today we're going to learn that text is connected to discourse, or text as connected discourse. As a reader and writer, getting involved with text is inevitable, meaning as a reader and writer, you will always get involved with text. Readers read text and writers write text. Both at the same time, you will have to experience becoming a reader and becoming a writer. So, it is important for you to understand the nature of text as an essential part of learning how to read and write effectively. It's as if without knowing the nature of something, you would not know how to use it. Say, for example, a ballpen. If you do not know how a ballpen writes, that's its nature, you wouldn't know how to use what a ballpen is. Same is true with writing and with reading. Same is true with the nature of text. If you do not understand how a text should be digested by the brain, then it will be hard for you to read and write effectively. So, what is a text? Text is not your text message that you receive day in and day out, but by definition, it is a large unit of written language. It is actually connected discourse. And what is discourse? It is an utterance, talk, speech, discussion, conversation, or basically the expression of ideas. Text and discourse are one and the same, only that text is written and discourse is spoken. Thus, text is a group of ideas put together to make a point or one central idea. The difference again here being presented by this slide is that text is basically organized discourse. Because sometimes we can talk to one person about many things, but we always jump from one topic to the other. But for text, there's always a central idea. There's always that one idea that you have to think about, to talk about, to write about. And that is the reason why text is an organized discourse. What I've noticed is that as opposed to what discourse is, a text has a structure which requires the ideas in the discourse to be relevant to each other. Ibig sabihin, as the text is more organized because it follows the structure. And what is the structure of text? Sometimes, or no, actually most of the time, a text has an introduction, a body, and conclusion. The author would always connect each idea to the others so that the reader will be able to understand the main point in the text. So, not only organization, but there is a certain connection from one idea to the other. So, when you open a book and the book is entitled Animals in the World, you will understand just by the title that the book will talk about different animals in the world. That's the central idea, and all the other sub ideas are present inside the central idea. So, reading and thinking strategies across text types will teach you how to approach text, how to listen to the author by reading his words. To understand text, you need to make sure now that you have to know the basic information about text, because the awareness of that nature will guide you in making decisions as how you can make your own reading and writing worthwhile and effective. So, what are the properties of a well written text? So, by the end of this activity or the end of this recording, you will have to critique a chosen sample of each pattern of development, focusing on information, selection, organization, and development. But I'll get back to you on this once I return from my official business. Whenever there's something to be done, most people try to visualize the output so that they could check how close they were in accomplishing that task. The key word here is to visualize your output. Meaning, when you are planning for something, there's always that picture in your brain, that image that you want. When you say 10 years from now, what do you want to become? You always have that idea that you want to have a house, and everybody has their own dream houses. That is the visualized idea. In order for you to accomplish your own dream house, and visualizing is actually very important. That's one key step in this discussion. Now that you know the nature of a text, the nature now is that it is a connected discourse, an organized discourse. You must already have a clear picture in your mind of what you should try to achieve in your writing. So when you write, make sure that you are talking to your audience through your words, and it is connected. All the ideas are connected to each other. You should be able to distinguish good writing from bad just by looking at how organized the ideas are. You're supposed to be aware that for a writer to be able to express meaning in what he is writing, the writer must consider 1. Unity, meaning the ideas are united, are present in one central idea, and logical arrangement, meaning there is a proper order of discussion. Appropriateness of language use, that's simple. Is the language too formal, or is the language too hard to understand? Proper grammar, punctuation, spelling, and format, all of these are characteristics of a well-written text. But if you are to write anything, your writing must have these following characteristics: A. Organization. B. Coherence and cohesion. C. Appropriate language use. And D. Proper mechanics. These are the important properties of a well-written text. Put them to heart and try to practice them all the time. Your ideas must be organized. There should be coherence and cohesion. There should be an appropriate use of language, depending on your audience, depending on their culture, depending on their tradition, and depending on what message you want to convey. And of course, the proper mechanics, meaning how you write your text. Now we go to organization. It refers to the arrangement of ideas in a text. You can easily follow good organization when you create an outline of ideas before you start. So when you organize ideas, you do not just, okay, whatever comes in your brain, that's the first idea that you put. That's the natural order of how you think. But sometimes the natural order of how we think is wrong. So, as you think it, you write it down first on paper, and then you start fixing your ideas. The most important thing you can do is to make an outline, which is like the skeleton of the human body. It gives you the form while writing the same thing. So basically, do not start, most especially if you're not confident, do not start writing something without an outline. That is your draft. Not the full text, but small words on a piece of paper could be your outline already. Good writers or experienced writers make their outline in their brains or in their minds. And sometimes it works if you are trained to do it. But do not do it if you are not yet trained. The form will make the readers see which ones are the major parts and which ones are the minor parts. An outline can be useful because it provides a format in which ideas from the specific or which ideas are the specific or subordinating ideas. So, when you outline something, of course you have to outline with a major idea first, and then what's the minor idea in there. Next major idea, and then what are the minor or supporting ideas. And then the last major idea, and then your subordinating ideas. Next, you should have coherence and cohesion. These two are different. But generally, it refers to the connection of ideas and connection between sentences and between paragraphs. So coherence is connection of ideas, while cohesion is connection between sentences and between paragraphs. A text is a connected discourse, meaning a text is a conversation that is connected with each other. This means that those things that you will write our ideas about a topic will not be considered well written if they do not stick together. If the ideas are too far from each other, then it's not connected discourse anymore. In order for you to assure that coherence or connection of ideas is present and cohesion or connection of sentences is present, you need to use transitional and cohesive devices. For instance, to provide coherence, you may use phrases that signals that you are adding more information. For example, in addition to, moreover, to add to this. One example of this is, or you might want to refer to the previous statement as mentioned earlier, or as like what I was saying, in the past we have talked about this are examples of, well, transitional devices or signaling devices. You can also use devices or words that contrast, meaning binabaliktad the last statement. For example, however, or on one hand, on the other hand. Remember, do not use on the other hand without using on one hand, and do not use a word, a transitional device, if it is not really necessary. For providing cohesion, you must organize old and new information in your text. Organizing old and new information can be done by using certain vocabulary such as synonyms and antonyms, repetition of words that are important, or using pronouns and conjunctions. So, we'll delve into more of this once we start editing already or critiquing some text. What is appropriate language use now? Appropriate language use is using the acceptable style of language for a particular form of text. Take note of the word acceptable. Some words might be acceptable to you, but not acceptable to others, which is why we use acceptable style for a particular form because there are different forms of a text. If, for example, you are writing to incite rebellion during the time of the Spanish colonization, of course, you're going to use language that people will understand, that people will be passionate about. But if not, if you're writing for a loved one, a person that you care for, then of course, your language use should be more passionate on the romantic side. For business correspondence, the style must be short and formal, which is why writers of business correspondences or formal letters, formal memorandums, should not use wordy phrases. Again, should not. Iiwasan dapat yung sobrang habang text. And there must be courtesy on the tone, or parang there's a form of respect. You should not sound bossy, but you should sound formal. For literary pieces, the language and style may be less formal and more creative. Just listen to Juan Miguel Severo. For example, pumunta kayo sa coffee break on November 29, if I'm not mistaken. There will be a open mic with Juan Miguel Severo and company regarding poetry. If you listen to their poems, they use vulgar language, but that's part of the creativity of the words. What is proper mechanics? It refers now to the conventions of writing, meaning these are your grammars, capitalization, punctuation, spelling, numerals, abbreviations, acronyms, and contractions. You may have experienced being confused as to whether you have committed an error in grammar or mechanics when you accidentally put an apostrophe in the possessive pronoun it is, or in the plural form of a noun such as cat, apostrophe s. Remember, there are rules that you need to follow, and it is very important that you master them, not by brain but by repetition. Once you repeat these rules over and over again and you apply these rules over and over again, you will not forget these rules. These errors are not errors in grammar since you have demonstrated that you know the rules informing the possessive pronoun and plural. You only made a mistake in the use of a punctuation mark. You committed an error in mechanics, not an error in grammar. So there's a difference to that. An error in mechanics are small minor errors, but there is grammar present. But an error in grammar is the subject and verb are used wrong, the words are not proper in the sentence, the tense is wrong. So there's a difference to that. Now, these three questions will have to be given to you in a form of an activity. But so far, what have you learned? 1. The properties of a well-written text. There are 4. 2. How can an outline be useful for organizing ideas? And what is the device that is used for achieving coherence in a text? Basically, these 3 review questions at this stage, dapat kailangan mong sagutin. If not, you may just go back. Done? Okay. So, what are the ways in which a writer can provide cohesion in a text? And what are the characteristics of effective language use? For this activity, I want you to place it on your workbook, on the logbook. Your friend asked you to edit the letter of request to Mr. Recto Amoranto. Based on the properties of a well-written text, edit your friend's letter. Revise it if necessary. So this is the letter. Start writing, start editing. This is activity number 2.